Good afternoon. My name is Robbie Torney. I'm a kindergarten teacher at Lighthouse Community Charter School here in Oakland, California, and I wanted to talk a little bit today about some school community outcomes that we've seen at Lighthouse as a result of our work with peer tutoring, and I'm excited to be here. So I wanted to present this session more as a in framing this session, I want us to be thinking about the design of programs that can lead to positive school community outcomes. I'd be happy to talk specifically about the program that we have at Lighthouse later on at Table Topics, or to answer any questions you have throughout this presentation. But I really wanted to think about, well, how can we design interactions between cross-age tutors that lead to positive outcomes for these students. So in this session, we're going to talk about, oh, sorry, Allison. It's okay. Our goals, some underlying assumptions that inform those goals, the actual design of our peer tutoring program, and then some outcomes that we've seen at Lighthouse. Thanks. So at Lighthouse, this is not an institutionalized model. We've sort of inherited a buddy reading, or when I came to Lighthouse, I inherited a buddy reading system. And in getting a little bit more intentional about the design of this program, I and the 9th grade teacher that I was assigned to work with decided that we really wanted to build student relationships and understanding K through 12 so that the students in the high school would have a better understanding of who was on the other side of the school and vice versa. One of our institutional values at Lighthouse is an emphasis on serving the whole child, so we also wanted to allow this to be yet another opportunity to engage in the kind of work that nurtures students not only academically but also socially and emotionally. And we also have an important character education component of the work that we do at Lighthouse, so we wanted to give tutors leadership and community service experience the opportunity to better the community at Lighthouse, and that was an important goal for us. So we started off with 3 assumptions to try to get at what we would need to do to achieve these goals. The first assumption that we've heard several times already is that relationships are the foundation of the work that we do together as teachers. I think we see this in our classroom all the time. It's our relationship with our students that allows our students to be successful, and that building relationships across the school beyond our classroom is the place where we need to start. In addition, we know that being known well promotes social and academic outcomes. So we saw peer tutoring as an opportunity to allow students to be known well by some other person at the school. And also, one important assumption that we built into our design was that coaching needed to happen before tutoring. We couldn't just throw students into tutoring interactions. It needed to happen during tutoring, and there needed to be opportunities for reflection after tutoring as well. So just working off of these assumptions, if relationships are the foundation of the work that we do together, then in our design of our program, we would need to intentionally do some work to build school community. In addition, if being known well promotes social and academic outcomes, then we need to provide activities and contexts in which students can engage and be themselves and bring their different proficiencies and interests to the table. And then, in addition, teachers need to provide a variety of coaching supports to tutors and to the tutees at all stages of the tutoring process. So these are the elements we prioritized in our design: intentional community building, rich engaging activities, and coaching supports for students. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about each of these elements of our program's design. So I said that intentional community building is really, really important. These are some interviews that the buddies do of each other when they first meet. And it sort of becomes ritualized so that the students know that they're going to come in and have this opportunity to learn something about their buddy. And I'm not sharing this to suggest that this sort of like, what is your name? What's your favorite color? What did you do this weekend? What's your favorite animal? That knowing this sort of fact or this information about your buddy is sufficient to have a relationship, but it's a place to start. It's an example of starting to know the person that you're working with a little bit as a person, more than just being thrown into a tutoring relationship. I've also included a sample agenda that I created with some 9th graders that I was working with last year, so that the 9th graders had the opportunity to engage in a structured relationship building with their buddy both so that the ninth graders know what they're getting into when they come into the classroom, but also so that there is some structure there and there is some support there, so that the relationship can be successful. We're trying to scaffold the students into successful relationships. So that gets us to rich, engaging activities. I will say that we do think that there are very strong academic outcomes that happen as a result of peer tutoring at Lighthouse, but I just want to share some of the things that we do together. This is an activity that we've done for the past 2 years as part of our procedural text unit in kindergarten, which is how-to writing. One of the culminating activities is making gingerbread houses, and that's a very engaging and messy activity that the ninth graders and the kindergartners get a lot out of. Another example of the kind of activity we do with our buddies, we do a lot of cooking, and this is a photograph from last year on Read Across America Day where we made green eggs and ham with our buddies, providing a nice, it was much more engaging for the ninth graders than I was expecting it to be, and the kindergartners absolutely loved it. So cooking is a great opportunity to have those extra people in the classroom, and it's also not something that the ninth graders necessarily get to engage in on a day-to-day basis. So it's an appreciated departure, I think, from some of the high school classes sometimes. We also try to get the ninth graders really involved in the creation of curriculum for their buddies. This is a photograph also from last year of a game that some ninth graders had designed for their kindergarten buddies. So there was a lot of engagement and some thinking and some planning that went into, well, what do kindergartners need to know? How can we get them engaged in this content, and how can we grow in our ability to plan and deliver instruction for people who are in a very different place than we are? We tried to integrate art. This is a photograph from this year. This year, the ninth graders had this idea that they really, really wanted to make puzzles for their buddies. I don't know where it came from, but they felt very strongly about it. Again, an opportunity to let the ninth graders take control of the direction of the tutoring relationship, and also for the kindergartners to enjoy that as well. And then, of course, I had to include literacy. The other activities that I mentioned are really fun and they're really important, but engaging in literature and informational text with somebody else is also in and of itself engaging and rewarding, and it's an easy place to start. So I mentioned that coaching supports are really important both for the kindergartners and for the ninth graders in this specific design. So I wanted to share with you a little bit about how we provide coaching supports before tutoring, during the tutoring experience, and then after tutoring as well. So before tutoring, we do some thinking. This happens before the ninth graders meet their kindergartners for the first time, but also on an ongoing basis. There's a little bit of opportunity for direct instruction and building some skills, and also the opportunity for students to ask questions and think about how they're going to address challenges. So for ninth graders, at the beginning of the year, students are often curious, well, what am I going to do if my buddy's not listening to me, right? What am I going to do if my buddy leaves the classroom, or if my buddy doesn't like me? What does it mean to be a kindergartner, right? Can they read? Can they write? Another thing that we get in as the year goes on is like, well, what kinds of books should I be reading, and what kinds of books should my buddy be reading? Like, what can a kindergartner actually read, and building some expectations around that. An example mini lesson or discussion going into tutoring for kindergartners is like, okay, your buddy's reading you this book, you're starting to get a little bit tired. How can you tell your buddy that you want to read something else instead of just getting up and leaving? So trying to build in some of those skills that we heard Mary talking about earlier today. My video did not make it in here. We also do video work with the ninth graders where we will film their interactions with kindergartners. And this is an opportunity for them to see what it's like for working with their students. In the video that I forgot to include in the presentation, you would have seen this ninth grader trying to engage a student in reading a book, and one of the things that the student noticed in reflecting on this video, the ninth grader, I should say, noticed in reflecting on this video, was that he was holding the book and that the student was really having a hard time seeing it, and it was just a simple matter of body positioning that might have helped the kindergartner have greater access to the text. During tutoring, I and the ninth grade teacher and other adults in the room circulate, offering both planned, targeted supports to students, being like, oh yeah, hey, Alexis, if you're gonna walk away from your buddy, like make sure to let him know where you're going, right? Or prompting the ninth graders to say, well, like, do you know where your buddy is? Like, do you know where they're going? Like, maybe you could ask them. Maybe you could remind your buddy to come back and be with the rest of the group. So there's some planned support and also unplanned support, responding to challenging behaviors or unexpected situations that occur. This work is really, really human, and there's a lot of opportunity for both the ninth graders and the kindergartners to get into somebody else's head and to empathize with somebody else's developments and needs. And then I mentioned after tutoring, reflection is really, really important. We do use video as a tool to promote reflection, but also just on a more informal discussion-based basis, letting the ninth graders have time and the kindergartners have time to think about, well, what went well today? In what areas do we need additional support? And like, what are our next steps and our interests? What are our ideas and what do we need to do to achieve those ideas to get them implemented? So I'd like to share with you some outcomes now, and just very briefly, some evidence of success that I look for over the course of a year of tutoring relationships is being able to release some of these scaffolds in terms of relationship building. It does remain important to provide a supportive, scaffolded context for students to have a relationships in, but over time, as students get to know their buddies better and build that relationship, you can take some of those scaffolds away. And we see that in terms of students engaging with their buddies more authentically and automatically. It's really exciting to see relationships that extend beyond buddy time. If you go outside and the kindergartners and ninth graders have a common lunch block, or if the kindergartners see their buddies in the hallway or in the multi-purpose room, it's very exciting to see that relationship go beyond the classroom. That's another outcome we look for, an indicator of being well known at school. And also, we look for excitement and engagement with all students as an important indicator of success. At the beginning of the year, I think it's very common for some of the ninth graders to have some reservations about working with younger students. It may be something that's a little bit out of their comfort zone. Some students may have a lot of experience with younger children. Other students may have very little experience. And on the kindergarten side, it's the same. Some students may have very little experience working with older students, or may have a lot of experience. And over time, seeing this being an exciting, engaging time, it's nice, both for the students and for teachers as well. That's not to say, of course, that there aren't challenges. A lot of the measures of success that I just mentioned were qualitative, and it's hard to quantify the improvement in school relationship or in school community that you see as a result of engaging in buddy work. Scale and buy-in is also really hard. I mentioned that this is not a formal institutionalized program at Lighthouse, and it can be challenging to create the space or the time or the willingness to engage in these types of collaborative relationships when instructional minutes are so precious. And then also, just to name it, extending our school community beyond our classroom provides many opportunities for amazing positive interactions, and also creates the opportunity for some types of interactions that you would never have in like in a typical kindergarten classroom or in a typical ninth grade classroom. And I think it's important just to name that so that we can recognize that not only is this a challenge, but it's an area for students to grow and learn in as well. But when I'm thinking about school community outcomes, like I really think when you walk into a classroom of ninth graders and kindergartners and everybody is engaged in a meaningful activity and people are excited to see their buddies, like that in and of itself is an important reason to engage in this kind of work.